I think it was just the whole immersive nature of the world, the fantastic music, the kind of just the charm of it was kind of what elevated it from maybe just another 3D platform into something that kind of people remember.
This game is a bona fide classic 3D platformer, complete with the Collectathon main course and a side of charming whimsy. The premise is your classic case of which wants pretty, bear has pretty, which steals bear, an older brother of bear sets off to the rescue with his platonic bird life partner. Simple, elegant, beautiful, platonic.
There's an extra level of care and effort and polish that's very apparent in the nuanced level designs. They feel expansive, but they aren't so big that you'll get lost or spend forever just getting to where you need to go.
These are more than mere stages, they're living, breathing worlds with plenty to do and see, and the music gets this across too, because every area comes with a bright and cheery beat to accompany the colorful landscapes, but it's also a dynamic soundtrack since it changes slightly depending on where you're located, like a muffled sound when you're underwater or in a cave.
Overall, I still stand by that Banjo-Kazooie could have been a great evolution of the 3D platforming model, set up by the Mario series of games but adapted by Banjo-Kazooie. And in a lot of ways, I prefer Banjo-Kazooie to Mario 64 and Super Mario Sunshine even. That's not to say either of these games are even bad or anything. I'm just saying that a lot of this game really perfected what I like in a game.
Developed by Rare and published by Nintendo in the year 2000 in North America and Japan, leaving Europe to wait until April the following year, Banjo-Tooie, as the name suggests, is a direct sequel to Rare's earlier smash hit.
Now, one of the best parts about Banjo-Tooie is that it feels like a genuine continuation of the previous game. So many sequels for platformers usually take place in brand new worlds with new stories and new villains, and oftentimes totally new mechanics. But not this one.
And the worlds are still incredible, just like the first game, with every single one of them being at least twice the size of Banjo-Kazooie. Just like how the first game had everything from a beach to a haunted mansion, all the way to a cavern with a giant robotic fish, Banjo-Tooie has worlds from the prehistoric era, the Industrial Revolution, and stripped straight from Super Mario 64 with Jolly Roger's Lagoon.
Despite a few flaws, Banjo-Tooie remains a game that I would consider among Rare's very best. It is much a joy to play now as it was back in 2000, and is a game I would recommend to anyone who has ever enjoyed a platformer.
In 2000, Microsoft was planning the release of their new console, and they had their eyes set on the talent over at Rare. In 2002, Microsoft bought 100% of Rare for $377 million, making them a first-party developer.
However, Banjo and Kazooie wouldn't make the transition to the Xbox family until 2008, and there would be 2 more games released in the meantime, both still on Nintendo hardware. This time, however, the bear and bird would be on the go.
Grunty's Revenge finally released in 2003 and was the first Rare game to release after Microsoft's 2002 buyout. The Banjo series' charm often comes from the interaction between characters, but unfortunately this is something that's kind of lacking in Grunty's Revenge. You get the occasional banter, but overall the characters simply ask for help and Banjo and Kazooie agree. And this is kind of a shame because while game mechanics and level depth are dumbed down simply because of the console's power, writing and dialogue definitely didn't need to suffer, and they could have easily been up to par with the first 2 games.
Similar to Banjo-Tooie are the minigames. Collecting Jiggies often means completing some sort of simple task, or winning in a minigame. At first, this seemed good and fun, until I realized how few minigames there actually were and how often they reused them. Like this fishing minigame here. They do this minigame like 3 times. And this game isn't particularly long. I beat the entire thing 100% in a single 6-hour session. That's incredibly short compared to the console games.
I remember beating this game for the first time and just wondering like, wait, was that it? Was that seriously it?
Banjo Pilot was released for the Game Boy Advance. Like Grunty's Revenge before it, Banjo Pilot was developed by Rare and published by THQ.
For one thing, it can be difficult to determine where racers are spatially in relation to you, and it's impossible to know when they're right on your tail. And if they bump into you, they'll slow you down or send you crashing into an object. If an item targets you, it does take a second to attack so you can dodge it, but there's no way to know if another racer is behind you waiting to bump you off course. Speaking of which, going off-road slows down your plane, which makes no sense considering you're flying above the ground. I get that you need some way to define which areas are track and which aren't, but why this affects your plane speed is something I just don't get.
Overall, Banjo Pilot is just okay. It's a fine enough kart racer, just that it's pretty basic despite being in planes. And it's pretty obvious that they put Banjo visuals over an unreleased game.
Banjo-Kazooie, nuts and bolts.
I am not really a fan of how these characters look. Apparently, the idea behind these angular designs were to mimic a sort of high-res, low-polygon look, but everybody just looks off. And the Jinjos look very, very sick. My goodness, give these guys a prescription. Oh, wait, so that's what the Globos look like this whole time? Oh, they're gross.
In the same Destructoid interview, Mr. Reed made their intentions loud and clear with what they wanted to do with Nuts and Bolts. The truth is, we didn't want to make just another platformer, and not until now has the technology allowed us to make a game as new and exciting as we thought the franchise deserved. Again, so many ideas, so little time to implement everything you would like. It's an inescapable fact of game development that sometimes gameplay features have to be dropped. Unfortunately, for several reasons, co-op play was one of these features.
After driving around for what feels like 10 hours, you'll eventually find a mission that you need to complete. These are fun, I guess? It feels like no matter what you do in this game, no matter what the mission is, the reward is never worth it and it just feels like a waste of time. There are 6 worlds in this game and it feels like the only thing to do in them is just collect the notes scattered around to buy new parts and that's it. You might as well just jump off your vehicle and run around the worlds on foot. Then you might actually spend some time on this game. Seriously though, I don't understand this. Why do they let you actually run around these worlds without being able to use any of the abilities from the old games? They took all the fun out of the movement and replaced it with cars, and even that shit isn't fun.
I can sit here and be shoveled shit all day, but no one can tell me that anyone anywhere thought this was an okay thing to do! Why? Why would you take a fucking Banjo-Kazooie game, one that we've been waiting for years, and make it about fucking Lego cars?
My car is finally ready. This car sucks.